We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. US President Donald Trump says Iran is in very bad shape after failure of peace talks as US Navy moves to blockade Iran's ports. Tehran responds will not bow to US threats. At least 200 people feared dead after Nigerian military jet strike a village market while pursuing Islamist militants in northeast region on Saturday night. Air Force officials confirm a misfire. Viktor Orban concedes defeat after 16 years in power in landmark Hungary general polls. Peter Magyar said to be the new Prime Minister. Underlining government's commitment towards women-led development, Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address Nari Shakti Vandan Sammelan today highlight importance of enhanced representation of women in decision-making processes. Last rites of the legendary playback singer Asha Bhosle will be performed with state honours in Mumbai as India mourns the demise of the singing legend. Well, the U.S. Central Command said U.S. forces would begin implementing the blockade of all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports at 1400 GMT on Monday, that is 1930 IST. It said U.S. forces would not impede freedom of navigation for vessels transiting through the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports, and additional information would be provided to commercial marinas through a formal notice prior to the start of the blockade. Also, the announcement came despite a ceasefire agreed on Wednesday aimed at pausing the 6-week war until April 22nd, with tension centered on whether the United States can force Iran to reopen the strategic Strait of Hormuz, another of its key demands in the stalled negotiations. Meanwhile, Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf said Tehran would not bow to the pressure. Iran's Revolutionary Guards also responded to Trump by warning that military vessels approaching the strait will be considered a ceasefire breach and dealt with harshly and decisively, underlining the risk of a dangerous escalation. In response, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran had engaged in good faith but had encountered maximalism, shifting goalposts and blockade. While President Pezeshkian said if the U.S. government abandons its hegemony and respects the rights of the Iranian people, there will certainly be ways to reach an agreement. Also, one of the major sticking points in the ceasefire talks is the conflict between Israel and Lebanon over Iran-backed Hezbollah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israeli forces had eliminated the threat of an invasion by Hezbollah militants during a visit to troops in southern Lebanon. He said the war continues, including within the security zone in Lebanon. Also, Israel has said that the temporary ceasefire in the wider West Asia war does not apply to its battle with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israeli officials have repeatedly said that Israel wants to establish a security zone in South Lebanon to help prevent Hezbollah attacks. Well, also, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam vowed that he will keep working to ensure the withdrawal of Israeli troops. Lebanon was pulled into the conflict when Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel after U.S.-Israeli strikes killed Iran's supreme leader. Now, Nawaf Salam said there was a moral obligation to protect the civilian population from the atrocious effects of war. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday formally appointed a new chief of the country's foreign intelligence agency, the Mossad. Major General Roman Goffman, an army officer with no prior intelligence background, will assume the role on 2nd of June 2026. At the start of the Gaza conflict triggered by Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, Goffman was a commander of the National Infantry Training Center. And for more on the West Asian crisis, we're joined by Akhilesh Suman for more. Well, Akhilesh, with the U.S. announcing a blockade of Iranian ports while still allowing transit through the Strait of Hormuz, how can this be interpreted? While Trump also said that U.S. would take action against every vessel in international waters that had paid a toll to Iran.
Exactly. This is the confusion. Yesterday, President Donald Trump has expressed on his Truth Social that all ships going in and coming out of the Strait of Hormuz will be blocked. He will not allow any ship going inside the Strait of Hormuz. That means no ship can go from Gulf of Oman to Persian Gulf. And no ship can come from Persian Gulf to Gulf of Oman through the Strait of Hormuz. And that is the only way you can connect the two Gulfs. And from Gulf of Oman, all ships come to Arabian Sea. But in the night, what we got from the CENTCOM, American Central Command, they have, tweeted that, your American blockade will apply only to ships going to Iranian port and coming from the Iranian ports. All other ships will be allowed to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That means zero in on Iranian, economic activity in around the region. Because after Donald Trump's statement on Truth Social, I think, a very big tremor wave went in all over the world that what is this? You cannot stop all the ships that is coming out and going inside the Strait of Hormuz. So I think there was a rethinking, and the Central Command has, clarified that it will only apply to, Iranian ports and ships having Iranian flags. So I think that this, embargo or this blockade will be applicable from 7:30 a.m. Indian time. Because understand they are telling that 2 p.m. GMT, that is around 7:30 Indian time. So in that way, I think that today, Monday, so it is going to create another, situation. World Bank has said that the Strait of Hormuz will never be like earlier in the past, and that means that all economic activity through the Strait of Hormuz will be impeded for a long time. The another strait is also disturbed because of Houthi militants in the nearby strait. So I think that it is going to create again big disturbance in the whole area. Though many of the countries were not buying oil or gas from the Iranian port, still I think that Iranian will also reply in the same vein. They may also announce something else. So in that situation, I think it is going to create a very difficult situation for countries around the world to deal with and around Strait of Hormuz, Nipakshi.
Yes, Akhilesh. In fact, given warning from Iran's Revolutionary Guards that approaching vessels could be treated as ceasefire violations, how high is the risk of direct naval confrontation there?
I think Donald Trump is ready for that direct naval confrontation, and they don't hesitate when they announce. I think that Iranians, it is up to the Iranians that how will they deal with the new situation. Because if Donald Trump or even the CENTCOM is not telling that they will go through the Strait of Hormuz, they are going to block the Gulf of Oman, and they are going to block any ship that is going in the Arabian Sea. So in that way, it is very little scope for any direct confrontation between US and Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. So they will stop any vessel in the international water also. The way Iranians are, stopping any vessel going through the Strait of Hormuz, that is
Right.
also international water. So I think both are responsible for this situation. Iranians have blocked the international water through Strait of Hormuz, and now Americans are blocking international water in the Arabian Sea. So I think let us wait and see that how it comes. But there is no clarity among anyone that how this situation will be resolved. Donald Trump has made many truth social after that, and he is zeroing in no nuclear weapon to Iran. So I think that whether Iran will negotiate on this situation,
Right.
whether Iran will renegotiate on the nuclear issue that has been left from the last talk in Islamabad, it is a big question, Deepak.
Also, Akhilesh, with nearly 20% of the global energy flows passing through the Strait of Hormuz, as we all know, how sustainable are the current market reactions like the spike in oil prices and drop in equities? And are we looking at a prolonged supply shock if tensions escalate further?
Yes, no one can tell that how long this confrontation will go, because we have seen that Iranians are not ready to negotiate on the
Right.
issue of nuclear sovereignty. We have seen that how when Oman was negotiating, it was very. Yes, they claimed that they were very close to the final conclusion, and in between, a war broke out between US Israel on the one side and Iran on the other. And now it is again the same situation. So I think it is very difficult to say. But that America itself is claiming that they can supply oil and gas to the country who are willing. They are opening their market for purchasing oil and gas from Americans. So I think they are trying to create a new situation. If there is dearth of oil and gas through the Strait of Hormuz, they are thinking, Americans, I mean, that Americans are thinking that it can be compensated through American side. But in between, it is not very easy to take oil and gas from America, because for most of the country,
Right.
America is far, far away. However, given the situation that how much Russian oil and gas will be supplied to the countries who are needing it, it is also a big question, because Russia is also, some companies of Russia is also under sanction. And Donald Trump has announced that only those Russian oil and gas are free of sanction who are in the floating in the sea already. Whether
Right.
the new oil and gas from the Russian port, from the Russian side, will be allowed by Americans, it is also a good question and big question. So everyone needs clarity, and that is
Right.
why there is a silence from all around the world that how the
Yes.
situation evolved. People are talking, people are trying to understand, people are guessing what will happen next. But it is up to Americans, it is up to Iranians,
Yes.
Israelis. Russia wanted to come in between. Vladimir Putin
Right.
has said that he may negotiate, but let us see that whether Russians will be able to do it, because
Absolutely.
Russia is already in conflict with Ukraine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Akhilesh, for all those details. And Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry summoned the Iraqi ambassador to deliver a formal complaint, saying the protest concerned attacks launched from the country. The ministry stressed the kingdom's condemnation and denunciation of attacks originating from Iraqi territory against the kingdom and the Gulf states. The statement marks one of the first official accusations in the region, suggesting that attacks targeting the Gulf states during the fighting between Iran and the US and Israel may have been launched from Iraq. The diplomatic protest comes just days after a similar complaint was issued by the US. Along with the Gulf states, Iraq was dragged into the war between the US, Israel and Iran, with strikes repeatedly targeting both US interests. And still to come, DD India News Hour. Trump threatens China with 50% tariff if it helps Iran makes a cheaper oil pitch. Cyclone Vaianu lashes New Zealand's North Island, lashing floods and triggering evacuations.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching TD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khuraran. Moving on, Hungary's veteran nationalist leader Viktor Orban lost power to the upstart centre-right Tidza party in Sunday's national election after 16 years in office, marking a setback for his allies in Russia and US President Donald Trump's White House. His landslide defeat handed Tidza's Peter Magyar a comfortable majority in Hungary's 199-seat legislature.
The election result is painful for us, but clear. The responsibility and possibility of governing was not given to us. I have congratulated the winner. I thank you all for the great work. Dear friends, what these election results mean for the fate of the homeland and the nation, and what is deeper or higher meaning is, this we don't know. Only time will tell. But no matter how it turns out, we will also serve our country and the Hungarian nation from opposition.
As per official results, Tidza secured a two-thirds majority with 138 seats in the 199-seat parliament, or 53.6% of the vote. Orban's Fidesz took 55 seats or 37.9% of the vote. Magyar pledged to restore checks and balances, ensure proper democratic functioning and set Hungary back on the right course.
Said yes to Europe. They said yes to a free Hungary. They said yes to represent them, to help them, to put the country in order, because this isn't Hungarian government, the responsibility of the Hungarian government. I call on the outgoing Prime Minister to act as an executive government from today and not to make any decisions that would tie the hands of the next government, the Tisza government. Hungary will once again be a strong ally in the European Union and NATO.
Well, following the Tidza party's victory on Sunday, European leaders congratulated Peter Magyar, with Ursula von der Leyen saying Hungary's choice reaffirmed its commitment to Europe and strengthened the bloc. While leaders, including Ukrainian President Zelensky, Italian PM Giorgia Meloni, French President Macron and UK President Starmer also congratulated Magyar on his victory. Well, thousands of centre-right Tidza party supporters celebrated Peter Magyar's victory in Hungary's national election. In the capital, crowds marked the victory with fireworks, singing and dancing. And Peru's election authority announced that some polling centers would reopen on Monday after irregularities in presidential and legislative elections left tens of thousands unable to vote. The National Office of Electoral Processes said an unspecified number of voting centers will reopen after a logistical failure led to more than a dozen polling stations closing on Sunday. The disruption prevented around 63,000 people from casting their votes. Early on Sunday, Peruvian presidential candidates Keiko Fujimori and Rafael Lopez Aliaga demanded an extension of voting hours. Serious fraud allegations were raised after electoral materials did not arrive at dozens of polling stations in Lima. Electoral authorities rejected fraud allegations and said delays were due to late installation of voting booths and absent polling staff. An early exit poll showed Fujimori leading with 16.6%, followed by Roberto Sanchez and Belmont, with no candidate near the 50% threshold needed to win outright. A second round on 7th of June appears increasingly likely. Well, polling stations closed across Benin on Sunday, ending voting in a presidential election expected to hand victory to Finance Minister Romuald Wadagni. Counting began shortly after polls closed, with provincial results expected in the coming days. Early indications suggested mixed turnout, with some polling stations reporting participation above levels seen in the 2021 election, while others pointed to more subdued voter engagement. Vadagni, the chosen successor of President Patrice Talon, faces opposition candidate Paul Hokpe in a race marked by limited competition 4 months after a failed coup attempt and amid growing jihadist violence in the country's north. The election is being seen as a key test of whether economic reforms can outweigh rising security concerns in the country. And at least 200 people are feared dead after Nigerian military jets struck a village market while pursuing Islamist militants in the northeast of the country. Nigeria's military said it carried out a precise airstrike on a known terrorist base and logistics center near the deserted village of Jili, claiming that many militants were killed. The Nigerian Air Force, responding to reports of civilian casualties, said it had opened an investigation after reports suggested the strike may have hit a local market in Jili and caused civilian casualties. Earlier, the Air Force said it had killed Boko Haram militants in the Jili axis in Borno State. 3 other residents and an official from an international humanitarian agency confirmed the strike and the estimated death toll. And moving on to Russia-Ukraine conflict, where truce between Russia and Ukraine to mark the Orthodox Easter formally expired on Monday, both sides having accused each other of thousands of violations. The truce lasted 32 hours, in which both sides had agreed to observe the ceasefire, which Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered. Russia's defense ministry accused Kyiv of almost 2,000 ceasefire violations, including hundreds of artillery and tank attacks, over 1,300 drone strikes and multiple drone-delivered munition drops. Moscow also claimed Ukraine carried out 3-night attack and attempted 4 advances along the front line, all of which it said were repelled. While Volodymyr Zelensky called for extending the ceasefire, saying Ukraine had already proposed it to Russia, however, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov ruled out any extension unless Ukraine accepts Russia's well-known conditions. And U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday warned China with new tariffs on its goods entering the United States if Beijing provides military assistance to Iran during the West Asian war. Trump also made an unexpected pitch to China by offering to supply oil at competitive rates. Trump's remarks came in response to reports citing U.S. intelligence that Beijing may be preparing to send weapons to Iran during a fragile 2-week ceasefire that began last Wednesday. President Trump is scheduled to visit Beijing next month for talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping after delaying an earlier summit because of the war against Iran. And Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez begins a 3-day visit to China on Monday, aiming to strengthen trade ties with the country as relations with the United States show signs of strain. Sanchez is set to meet top Chinese officials, including President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang, on Tuesday. The trip marks Sanchez's 4th visit to China in 4 years. The visit comes amid tense relations with Washington under President Donald Trump, whose tariffs and unpredictable foreign policy have raised concerns among European allies. Trump threatened last month to cut trade with Spain after the country denied the use of its military bases for U.S. strikes against Iran, a key economic partner of Beijing. And U.S. President Donald Trump said on Sunday that he is not a big fan of Pope Leo XIV after the global leader of Catholics made a plea for peace on Saturday. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said Pope Leo is weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. The following comments came after Pope Leo said that this month's threat from Trump to destroy Iranian civilization was unacceptable. Later, talking to reporters, Trump at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, Trump said he's not a big fan of Pope Leo XIV. and Algeria is preparing for a visit by Pope Leo. The trip marks his first major overseas tour this year. Security and arrangements are in place ahead of arrival. Algerians gathered near the Basilica of Our Lady of Africa in Algiers as preparation continues for the arrival of Pope Leo. The visit marks the first leg of his tour across 4 African countries between 13th and 23rd of April, including Cameroon, Angola and Equatorial Guinea. The Pope is scheduled for a 3-day visit where he will meet members of Algeria's Christian community and Muslim religious leaders, focusing on promoting interfaith dialogue. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world today. Nash Cupboard, an exhibition showcased the shared cultural heritage of the Turkic world, featuring traditional attire, cuisine, music and handicrafts. With student performances and strong public participation, the event aimed to preserve cultural traditions and promote unity across generations. In the United States, a forgotten wooden trunk revealed a cinematic treasure when retired teacher Bill McFarland discovered early silent film reels linked to his great-grandfather. Preserved at the Library of Congress, archivists uncovered a rare lost 1897 film by pioneering filmmaker Georges Méliès, offering a glimpse into the earliest days of cinema. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Well, today marks the anniversary of the darkest chapters in India's struggle for freedom, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre in 1919. Baisakhi, the harvest festival mostly celebrated in North India's Punjab, is being celebrated today.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, President Draupadi Murmu will visit Gujarat and Maharashtra from April 13th to April 16th. The President will arrive in Gujarat for the first leg of a visit on April 13th and attend the first convocation ceremony of AIIMS Rajkot. The next day, she will head to Gandhinagar to grace the Samajik Samrastha Mahotsav at Lok Bhavan on the occasion of the birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar, according to a release. On the same day, the President will grace the 5th convocation ceremony of Rashtriya Raksha University at Gandhinagar. On April 15th, Draupadi Murmu will head to Maharashtra for the second leg of a visit, where she will grace the 2nd convocation ceremony of AIIMS Nagpur. On the same day, she will grace the valediction ceremony of the 78th batch of Indian Revenue Service Officer trainees at the National Academy of Direct Taxes, Nagpur. She will conclude her visit by attending the 6th convocation ceremony of Mahatma Gandhi Antarashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya at Wardha on April 16th. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend a national-level Nari Shakti Vandan Sammelan on Monday in New Delhi. The conference is being organized to reinforce the commitment towards greater participation of women in shaping India's development trajectory. It will highlight the increasing role of women in governance and leadership across all levels, from panchayats to parliament. The program will also underscore the importance of enhanced representation of women in decision-making processes. Women achievers from diverse fields will attend the event, along with representatives from different sectors such as government, academia, science, sports, entrepreneurship, media, social work and culture. The Sammelan will highlight the role of women in India's journey towards becoming a developed nation by the year 2047. Also, Indian Parliament in September 2023 passed the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam to enhance women's representation of legislative bodies. The act provided for the reservation of 1/3 of seats for women in the lower house of Parliament and state legislative assemblies. With a focus on the implementation of women's reservation across the country, a Parliament session will be convened from the 16th of this month. And Minister of State for External Affairs Pabitra Margarita attended a mourning ceremony for Iran's late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in New Delhi on Sunday. The ceremony was organized by the Iranian embassy to pay respect to the departed leader on the 40th day of his demise. Khamenei was killed in an Israel-US strike on February 28th. The External Affairs Ministry in a social media post said that India-Iran relations are anchored in deep-rooted civilizational, cultural and people-to-people ties. Well, April 13th marks the 107th anniversary of one of the darkest chapters in India's history, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Over a century ago, on this very day, 1919, the brutal actions of British colonial forces left an indelible mark on the struggle for India's independence. The massacre took place during the Baisakhi festival when thousands of unarmed men, women and children gathered at Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar to celebrate the Baisakhi festival, unaware that martial law had been imposed, banning public gatherings. Well, Colonel Dyer, the acting brigadier, gave the order to open fire on the crowd without issuing any prior warning or asking them to disperse. The horror that followed was immense. Official British figures reported 379 deaths and over 1,200 injured. Indian estimates placed the death toll at more than 1,000, with thousands more injured. This horrific event, also known as the Amritsar massacre, was a shocking act of violence, marking a key moment in India's struggle for independence. And an interactive event, Orbit of Inspiration, celebrating 65 years of human space flight, was held in New Delhi. The event marked the anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's historic space flight, with Russian cosmonaut Denis Matveev sharing his experiences with the students. A short film showcasing the rigorous training and life of cosmonauts in zero gravity was also screened. The initiative aimed to inspire young minds, promote scientific curiosity, and highlight the future of space exploration. Well, Baisakhi, one of the significant harvest festivals of India, is being celebrated today. The festival is celebrated mainly in North India's Punjab as Harvest Festival. The day holds utmost importance for Sikh community because of its religious, spiritual and cultural significance. Dating back to 1699, Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th and last Sikh Guru, established the Khalsa on Baisakhi Day. He eliminated the difference between high and lower caste communities and declared that all human beings are equal. For the Punjabi community, Baisakhi marks the celebration of the New Year's Day as well. It's time to start afresh, forgive old grievances and strengthen community bond through shared meals and services. And in response to media queries regarding China giving fictitious names to places, External Affairs Ministry official spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal said India flatly rejects China's mischievous attempts to assign fictitious names to Indian territories. Renaming places is dismissed as an attempt to manufacture false claims that cannot change ground reality. The statement reaffirmed that Andhra Pradesh is and will always be an integral part of India. Such actions undermine efforts to stabilize India-China relations and inject unnecessary negativity into bilateral ties. China has been urged to refrain from activities that hurt mutual understanding and normalization efforts. Well, sheep rearers in Rajouri will now have easier access to the wool market. The local administration has set up a collection centre in the district to ensure efficient storage and transportation of the wool. The initiative is expected to strengthen the livelihoods of the tribal population engaged in wool sharing.
Sheep rearers in Rajouri will now have easier access to the wool market. The local administration has established a collection centre in the district to enable efficient storage and transportation of wool. The center uses advanced vacuum packaging to compress wool, helping preserve its quality and making transportation cheaper and more efficient.
यहाँ पे एक वैक्यूम बैग टेक्नोलॉजी का इंट्रोडक्शन किया है.
We have introduced vacuum bagging technology here. Vacuum bags are commonly being used for packaging nowadays, and they will ensure that wool remains fresh. More importantly, they significantly reduce the volume of wool to nearly 1/10. So for instance, if 50 kg of wool could earlier be carried on a horse, now 3 to 4 times that quantity can be transported. The wool will stay protected from moisture, dampness and pests, ensuring that its quality is maintained from the source to the point of sale. Wool is an important local resource, and this move will ensure that it is properly processed. It will help boost the income of locals, and in the future, it will become a major source of livelihood generation.
उसको हम अच्छे तरीके से प्रोसेस भी कर पाएंगे.
Rajouri is one of the highest wool producing districts in the country, producing 7 lakh kilograms of wool annually. According to the Deputy Commissioner, the initiative will strengthen the livelihoods of tribal population engaged in wool sharing.
And legendary playback singer Asha Bhosle breathed her last on Sunday. The Queen of Melody passed away at the age of 92 at Breach Candy Hospital in Mumbai. Prime Minister Modi expressed grief on the singer's demise, with film and music personalities offering condolences. Her last rites will be held today at Shivaji Park in Mumbai with state honours.
Legendary playback singer Asha Bhosle passed away on Sunday at the age of 92 at Breach Candy Hospital in Mumbai. She was admitted after suffering a cardiac arrest on Saturday. Her son Anand Bhosle confirmed the news. Asha Bhosle received numerous awards during her illustrious career. These include 7 Filmfare Awards for Best Singer and 1 Lifetime Achievement Award. In addition, she was honoured with the prestigious Dada Saheb Phalke Award in 2000 and Padma Vibhushan in 2008. Throughout her career, she has sung approximately 16,000 songs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief over passing away of Asha Bhosle and called her one of the most iconic and versatile voices India has ever known. Several personalities from film and music industry offered their condolences on the passing away of legendary singer.
It's the end of an era, I feel, and it's a very sad day for all of us. And my heartfelt condolences to the full country, all our fans, her family, everyone. हम सब उनके परिवार ही हैं. तो बहुत ही दुख की बात है ये. We pray that her soul may rest in peace.
A very sad day for Indian music. Just cannot believe that our dearest Asha Thai is no more.
She was such an amazingly versatile singer. It's just unbelievable to talk about Asha Ji Bhosle in the past.
She used to always tell me that it's been 8 decades that she'd been singing, because she started singing almost at the age of 13, 14, and she was 92 when she's gone. She'd actually not gone, and she always wanted us to smile and celebrate her exit, and she was very, very particular about that.
Asha Bhosle ji has passed, and extremely saddening, or just no words. Obviously, उनकी जो डिस्कोग्राफी और जो लेजेंडरी म्यूजिक है, लेजेंडरी सॉन्ग्स हैं, वो तो हमेशा they'll be with us, but it's truly a sad day.
She could play with her voice. She could do equally well with her dishes. She used to personally cook for me and Kiran when we went there, and she would absolutely enjoy what she was doing, and she would served personally as well. It was absolutely amazing.
Shah Rukh Khan wrote in a post of X, and I quote, "It's truly sad to learn about Asha Thai's passing. Her voice has been one of the pillars of Indian cinema and will continue to resonate world over for centuries to come. A talent that will outlive many. She always showered me with blessings and love, and I will miss her. Rest in peace, Asha Thai. Love you." Asha Bhosle's last rites are scheduled for 4 p.m. at Mumbai Shivaji Park. Although Asha Bhosle has departed for her heavenly abode, but her memories will remain in everyone's hearts forever. Siddharth Bhardwaj's report for DT India.
And for more, we have Shama Mishra joining us from Mumbai. Well, Shama, an end of an era indeed, as the last rites of Asha Bhosle ji are set to take place at Shivaji Park with full state honours. What is the atmosphere on the ground, and how are the fans and the members of the film fraternity paying their final respects?
Well, Lepakshi, for starters, we had seen yesterday that a lot of people have already paid their last respects to Asha Tai, and today her mortal remains would be kept at her residence at Lower Parel, and people, celebrities or other dignitaries can come and pay their last respects at the home. After that, she will be her mortal remains would be taken to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Park, which is at Dadar, and her mortal remains would be cremated there with state honours. And over there we are expecting a whole lot of crowd, because at her home there will be only a limited people who would be allowed, but here at Shivaji Park there will be almost everybody from Dadar, from the nearby area, from Mumbai, even from Maharashtra, who would be coming to pay their last respects to the legendary singer. Because as you've mentioned, this is an end of an era, but obviously she lives on in our hearts, because her career has been spanning more than 7-8 decades. At 92 also, she just a month back, she had performed one song with the British band, and if you hear those lyrics, if you hear that song, it talks about reincarnation, talks about moksha, and it definitely shows how much she would have thought, or she must have seen it, that how in near future things would happen. It could be a guess from her side, and this song definitely speaks about that. Apart from this particular song, she has been singing, she has been entertaining whole of India, whole of people from India in other countries as well with her melodious songs. And what is one thing which sets her apart is that at that time when the female singers or even the male singers were typecasted, she was the one who stood out and did various experiments. She did try a lot of cabaret songs. She did try a lot of ghazal songs, classical, slow, all the genres, and that is why she was also known as the queen of genres, because she experimented, she was free-spirited, her spirit and her voice made the songs which she sang, which she performed, unforgettable for people who would be listening from that era to till now. So this is a loss for everybody who has been listening to Asha Tai since a very long time. Lepakshi.
Absolutely, Shama. Asha ji was a legend, and legends never die. But given her unparalleled contribution to Indian music, how are industry veterans and young artists remembering Asha Bhosle ji today? Tell us about the special tributes or state ceremonies planned during the final rites this evening.
Well, we are talking about state honours, and before cremation she will be given full state honours. She'll be given the gun salute, and we are expecting a whole lot of dignitaries over there as well. People from the Indian film industry, Indian music industry, they would be there. Also people from the political world, they would be also coming there, because she was 92 and people have been associated with her since decades. They will all be coming and giving their last respects to Asha Tai. So the entire Shivaji Park would be filled with people who would be saying bye to Asha Tai with teary eyes. And this is what happens when we've always seen that Shivaji Park is one place where this sort of cremation takes place. The entire ground, this is a huge ground, and the entire ground is filled with people because they want to come and see the departed soul for one last time. They want to pay respects for one last time, and that is what we are expecting, that the ground would be filled around 4 o'clock. the time that has been given is 4 o'clock. So we are expecting around that time or somewhere after 4 o'clock the gun salute, the state honors would be given, and after that she would be cremated. This would definitely, as we are speaking, this would not be the person who would be forgotten from that Shivaji Park, but she definitely will continue to live in our hearts forever, and every person who has been listening, and we're not just talking about India, we're talking about the entire world, because she has been entertaining with her sound, with her voice, and she has not just sung in Marathi or Hindi, she has sung in several other languages as well. So everybody who has been listening to her songs in various other languages has been touched, and that is why it will be very hard for them, nearly impossible for them to forget a legendary singer like Asha.
Absolutely, Shyama. She was the most versatile singer we've ever known. Thank you so much for all those details from there. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Oil prices bounce back above $100 per barrel. Stocks slide after US-Iran talks end in a stalemate. And India concludes its campaign at Asian Wrestling Championships with 17 medals.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. The failure of the US-Iran peace talks has raised fears that renewed fighting could drive energy prices higher and further damage shipping and oil and gas facilities. Shortly after trading began, a barrel of West Texas Intermediate for May delivery rose around 8% to $104.50, while June delivery of international benchmark Brent rose 7% to $102. Also, S&P 500 futures dropped 1% in early trade. The euro fell about 0.5%. Moves in Asian stock markets were broadly lower but relatively modest. Ireland's government announced fresh tax cuts on petrol and diesel at an emergency cabinet meeting on Sunday after fuel cost protest that had threatened the functioning of the country's emergency services. Also, since Tuesday, hauliers and agricultural contractors have launched a series of protests over spiraling petrol and diesel prices in the wake of the West Asian war. The cuts announced include a 10-cent reduction per litre on both diesel and petrol, and a planned increase on carbon tax will be postponed from May until the budget in October. Well, some protest was still going for sixth day on Sunday. Earlier, the government had urged the public not to panic buy as pumps at many fuel stations ran dry. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. India concluded its campaign at the Asian Wrestling Championships with a total of 17 medals, adding 2 silver and 1 bronze on the final day in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan on Sunday. On the concluding day, Olympic medalist Aman Sehrawat and Mukul Dahiya won silver in 61 kg and 86 kg freestyle category respectively, while Dinesh scored bronze in the 125 kg division. With this, India finished with 2 golds, 7 silver and 8 bronze medals. The men's freestyle team contributed 7 medals, Greco-Roman wrestlers secured 5, and the women team added 5 medals to the overall tally. And in IPL, Sunrisers Hyderabad will face Rajasthan Royals in the 21st match of Indian Premier League on Monday. Sunrisers is 6th on the table with a solitary win from 4 games, whereas Royals is still unbeaten after winning all of its 4 games. In the previous fixture between these two teams, Sunrisers won by 44 runs, having posted 286 in the first innings, which is the highest team total in IPL history. Well, the Indian Premier League witnessed another action-packed day on Sunday as two high-stakes clashes kept fans entertained. In the first match, Gujarat Titans defeated Lucknow Super Giants by 7 wickets in Lucknow, chasing a target of 165 runs. Gujarat Titans overall the score in 18.4 overs with half-centuries from Shubman Gill and Jos Buttler. Later in the evening, at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium, Royal Challengers Bengaluru produced a high-voltage batting display to defeat the Mumbai Indians by 18 runs. RCB smashed 240 for 4 in their 20 overs, setting a daunting total. Mumbai Indians fought back with a spirited chase but could not only manage 222 for 5, falling short despite some big hits. And in tennis, Jannik Sinner dethroned defending champion Carlos Alcaraz in Sunday's Monte Carlo final to claim his first Masters title on clay and snatch back the world #1 ranking from the Spaniard. The victory capped a remarkable run for Sinner, who became just the second player to win the Sunshine Double in Monte Carlo in the same season, a feat previously achieved only by Novak Djokovic in 2015. It marked Sinner's 4th consecutive Masters 1000 crown following triumphs in Paris, Indian Wells and Miami, and his 8th Masters title overall. Sinner is also the 3rd player to win 4 successive ATP Masters 1000 titles, joining Djokovic and Rafael Nadal, who is an 11-time winner at Monte Carlo. Well, all right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Namaskaram from Telangana, India's youngest state, a rising star.
గౌరమ్మ పొత్రుళ్ళు తెచ్చినాము గౌరమ్మ